Hello there, and welcome back to the Lucium Total War official YouTube channel. Today we are starting off our faction overview series with the United Kingdom. Well, anyway, let's get into it. So the estimated difficulty for this is easy, as you're the United Kingdom, of course. And now we'll jump into the campaign map. So we are here on the campaign map, and well, here's the Welcome to Lucium Total War event. It says here what it says in the main menu. I'm not going to bother reading through it. You can read it in your own time, of course, when you play Lucium Europe. So, starting position. You start on an island, which is a weakness in a way, because you have to gather a navy to sail over the channel to France. Your main enemies will be, of course, France, maybe Spain. Yeah, most likely Spain. And, Cologne and the general German states is where you'll want to expand. Generally, you'll want to expand down into France, take out France. To remind you, it's not like Empire. It's not just Paris. There are tons of settlements, so it's not an easy singular push to take France. And you don't have anything to bother with Ireland or Wales, because of course the United Kingdom was including Ireland and Wales at that point. And so there's a cool little thing with Scotland that happens later in the game where you just unite in an event and you'll just get Edinburgh. Yeah, unless you attack them, which is dumb. I did that in a campaign once and it was the worst idea you could do because everything gets messed up. So do not attack Edinburgh. But yeah, starting position is generally quite good. Your economy is quite easy to manage. Even I can manage it, and I'm not even a good Total War player or units like this. That is just a placeholder image for 3.0, so don't worry about that. You get better unit cards like this. But yeah, you generally have an easy economic time in the world, financial time, whatever. You can manage these pretty easily. You can manage population things. Exeter never really likes you, really, until much later on, which is kind of annoying. In one of my campaigns, it turned rebel, but you shouldn't worry about that. I was just one of the first times I was playing Lucium Total War before I was a developer, of course. Spanish. So yeah, the Spanish control a random ton of villages and cities around Italy, up here in France, and of course they control Spain. You actually do have Gibraltar, I just remembered. You usually lose that pretty quick. And I'm just going to turn on toggle file. Don't know why I didn't do that before. But yeah, so you get Bruges, Reims, Kent. They only seem to have singular units except for like Paris. But yeah, so the best option is to just navally invade France. Then I don't know. I think Spain would most likely push up and take some of France as well, so you're probably going to end up fighting the Spanish, and they'll be pretty strong. So, general starting position for the British, I would say easy. And generally, for most of the campaign, it's easy. You'll probably have completed the campaign by the time you actually get into a big war with Spain. And actually, sometimes most of the time you'll actually end up fighting the Westphalians and the Colonians, is that what you call them? No, Colonian, no. Well, you'll end up fighting Cologne, Westphalia. So that's me done on the campaign map, and we're going to go over to the battle map. So, here we are. We're not exactly on battle map, I'm just overviewing the units for you. So, start off with your basic trash that every unit needs to have. You have your Home Guard Militia. Well, Northern Home Guard Militia. They are basically the cheapest and worst unit you'll get. Eventually, in an event later on, they'll be replaced with Regimental Home Guard, which are basically the gun equivalent of Northern Home Guard, or just generally Home Guard militia. As you can see, attack of 1, defense of 3, and a charge of 2. The Home Guard militia are commoners and peasants levied into local militias to defend settlements and bolster armies armed with long spears. They, of course, their spears bonus fighting against cav, and they get combat bonuses and witness. Oh, interesting. Next, we've got the British Light Pikemen. Probably your worst pike unit, aside from the Celtic Pikemen, which I'm mad about. The Celts always use pikes to great ability. Or it was their signature weapon, sort of. But British Light Pikemen, attack of 9, a defense of 2, and a charge of 1. They're your basic pike unit. They're like a low tier, as you can see there at the bottom. Celtic pikemen, of course, they can only be recruited in Edinburgh or in the Scottish regions, I think. I don't fully know, I think so. Anyway, we're going to move on to Royal Legion pikemen. They're your kind of better pike unit. They're the best pike unit you have on your rosters. Lucium Total War does try to take you. They do later on in the game. You don't really use pikes at all. It's just kind of you're outdated because you get to units like this and this, and all the modern units. And then we go into British Old Guard, which are one of the staple British armies before the time of the new model army is now vestigial limb in any British army. I probably mispronounced that because I don't know what that word means. Yeah. But anyway, British Old Guard, Regimental Home Guard, which will replace the Home Guard militia in the event. Common Musketeers, probably the worst. It says the Regimental Home Guard are worse, but Common Musketeers, I hate with all my heart. Fire by rank makes a unit go to the very back of the line, running really slow animation. Without fire by rank, the front line shoots, kneels down, second line shoots. That is very, it just makes the Regimental Home Guard much better than Common Musketeers. And now getting on to less general and weak units. The British Canadian Riflemen, which is where we start getting to the proper line units. They are British Canadian, as you know, British Canadian Riflemen. They're men from colonial garrisons in Canada. We go down to the British Model Infantry, your standard empiric infantry, just they, as you can see, they look a lot like they are from Empire. Next up, we've got European Bayonet Militia. They are kind of meh. They're kind of worse than the British Canadians and Model Infantry. I don't know why they're here. I don't know why. It's just Medieval 2, isn't it? They should probably be somewhere next to the Common Musketeers. They're not amazing, but they're decent, I guess. A bit better than Home Guard, Regimental Home Guard, and yeah. And we get on to our best rifleman unit, the British Empiric Riflemen, taken from across the Empire and brought back to the UK to fight for king and country. And then, finally, on the infantry side of things, aside from the Protestant fanatics, the Grenadier Infantry, the most memeable unit in Lucium Total War, and probably the whole of Medieval 2 modding, aside from the banana factions in that mod, the explosive bananas. They literally, oh my goodness, they absolutely rip apart units if they get close enough. Their range is about a meter though, which means they'll probably get, a lot of them will die, but they absolutely rip apart units. Just don't come against them on a battlefield. They will absolutely murder you. Next up, we have on to the first cav unit, and probably the worst, the British Mobile Lancers. As you can see, attack 7, defense 7, charge 8. That's not too bad for a cav, but it's not very, because they're light. They're not very good because they're light cav. We go into the British Staff Cavalry. That's of course the General's Bodyguard, attack of 8, defense of 12, and charge of 6. We've got the British Hussars. Yes, Hussar. Attack of 14, defense of 11, and charge 12. They're pretty good. You get mounted riders, which are basically, I think they're mercenary. No, actually no, they're not. They are mounted gunners, like as you can see, the two mounted musketeers and European dragoons. They're basically a not as good version of these. Well, they're probably this. Yeah, they're not as good. And then, as you see, we move on from the mounted riders to the mounted musketeers, which are a slightly better version, and then you get on to the European dragoons, which are better than that. Then you get onto the cannons, the Renaissance cannon, the worst cannon still actually. Mid-tier, as it says, a mid-tier cannon from the early 18th century. It's kind of meh. 12-pounder cannons, which are quite spicy, you know. They're kind of another step up, as they're like middle sort of ground. I think they're getting a bit to the higher end of thing. And then you get the 24-pounder, which is insane and it will absolutely destroy units as well. And then, of course, you've got the Protestant fanatics. Well, thank you for joining me on this faction overview, and I will see you in the next one, which should be uploaded sometime this week, and it will be France. Thank you for watching. See ya.